Welcome to this guide of Welcome to this video about homemaking for non-traditional people. Or is it non-traditional homemaking? This video is on my God-Centered Wellness channel, so this is going to be a Christian take, a biblical take of homemaking. In this video, I'm going to share with you why I don't consider myself to be a traditional homemaker, the biblical perspectives that inspire my homemaking, and then a myth or a misconception that I have heard within Christian homemaking content that I just really want to address, and it's just really important to me to address it. My husband and I have both talked about this together, and we do see our style of living as being non-traditional or non-conservative compared to some other styles that are presented online in content and such, and here is why. One, neither one of us have traditional jobs. Neither one of us has an 8-hour work day. He works outside of the home, but his work schedule has huge variety because my husband is a professional classical singer. So he has a lot of time spent inside of the home as well. We're both home. We're both home a lot, and we both work a lot from inside the home, and we're both artists. The second thing that makes us non-traditional is we both equally cook and clean. But my husband and I both cook, we both clean, we both think about the flow of the home, and we both work inside of the home too. The last thing on my list for today that I believe makes my homemaking approach non-traditional, especially within a Christian perspective, are the scriptures that inspire my homemaking. And I'm actually not going to be quoting very specific scriptures, but more so just sharing with you the thoughts that I have about the bigger concepts, I guess. Just hang in with me. I often hear the Proverbs 31 woman being the inspiration for homemakers, that if you can do things like the Proverbs 31 woman, you are a godly woman, you are doing things like that. There's nothing wrong with being inspired by Proverbs 31. I am often inspired by Proverbs 31. Any biblical inspiration for how we live our lives in a better way is not wrong. But I want to share what inspires me beyond that, foundationally, before that. It's more of a concept, less of an actual verse, okay? So you know how when the Israelites were in the desert, way back in the Torah, God instructed them to build the tabernacle. The tabernacle was a non-stationary dwelling place for the Lord with his people, that he could interact with them, and that this was a place for the priest to create the structures of the sacrifices and all these things. This was I see it as a place of structure for the experience of God. But later we get the temple, right? And the temple is this gigantic, ornate, beautiful, lavish thing that's basically serving the same function, except instead of moving around with the people of Israel in like a nomadic way, it is stationary. It is in Jerusalem. This is the temple of Yahweh. Cool. So this inspires how I see my home, because the temple came after the tabernacle. So the big, beautiful, ornate part of it was not the priority. First, we had what worked, something that worked well, and the priority was the function and the structure. Within the functioning of the tabernacle, people were able to have, and like the priest and such, were able to have more of a connection with God. So later it becomes the temple. So what I have seen in my life, and this is my personal experience when I think about the women in my family, is first the temple, the beauty, was prioritized before the structure and the function. So I have very intentionally in my life flipped this. Before I worry about beauty and design and the decoration of my home, I am focused on function. Does it function? Does it flow? Am I living in a space that is accessible to my habits, my routines, my lifestyle, my desires, my projects, my goals, my passions, my business, my tasks? Or is my home so decorated that the decoration is getting in the way of my function? My childhood kitchen very quickly turned into a place that was so decorated that the counter space was limited. And counter space, you know, when there's a lot of decoration on countertops, this is a really good hub for dust. And that's the last thing you want on a countertop. You want to be able to really easily wipe down a countertop really well. So I really prioritize in my kitchen not having stuff on the countertops. I do not want it. I do not need decoration before I need functionality. And I believe that beauty comes forward from functionality. Once we find the function and we find the flow, then beauty comes forward.
What I'm not trying to tell you through this entire video is that you have to not decorate until you figure out function. I'm just like usually not that black and white. A great example is right behind me. You may not be able to see the nail in the wall. I just whipped my hair so good. But that has been there for at least a year. I'm working on a piece of artwork. It's not ready yet, but I know that it's gonna go here and I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be great. So I'm okay with this not being exactly visually appealing because my room is so comfortable. It's more like, how can you do things in tandem? How can you do it together? When you're thinking about decorating a space, can you also consider the function and the flow of the space? When I'm thinking about what do we need, what do we want, what needs to be happening in the house so that I can be supported and my husband can be supported, it's all about practicality and function. I'm just like not really an aesthetic person. Aesthetic comes second to me. I've talked about this for years on my social medias. I find that there is natural aesthetic that happens when a good process is committed to. When you can commit to the process and naturally follow the process and do a really good job at structuring the function, the flow, then the art comes through it. A really good example, let's say a painter has a painting studio. It is going to be such a crippling thing to the creative process if every time they want to paint, they have to take all of their painting supplies out, set everything up, and it takes 40 minutes to an hour to prepare to paint. An art studio that is set up around function, accessibility, and flow is going to be beautiful. When you walk into an art studio and you see the easel in a great spot, you see all the paints out, you see the paintbrushes, you see the canvases. These are not decoration, these are tools, but they are beautiful, and the function of the room is highlighted. That's that for this segment. We'll get into the next in 3, 2, go!
Another tip that I think is really great is to identify your big stress spaces. For me, it's my closet. My closet was such a source of stress for me because when I moved overseas, I didn't bring a bunch of my clothes with me. I feel really ungrateful when I talk about this, so I try not to talk about it too much, but I don't have enough clothing that I have picked for myself in ideal circumstances. I don't have enough clothing that I found on my own. It sparked joy for me. I really loved the fabric against my skin. I really feel comfortable in it. And that is because I moved overseas and I couldn't bring everything with me. And that's fine. It's okay. But for a while, this caused me a lot of stress because in a season where everything was absolutely different, even my clothing was all different. Everything tugged, everything pulled, everything was just a little bit off. And so my closet became this place where I was like, every time I opened the wardrobe doors, my body temperature changed. I would start to sweat, I would start to get stressed. This would really start to bother me. So I have spent a lot of time in my closet, organizing my clothes, finding methods for me that work, finding ways to create function here and not worry about how it looks, but recognize that my closet is kind of the last place I go before I enter the world. So if the last thing that I have to do, if me getting ready to go outside is one of the most stressful things in my entire house and the way I live my life, this really sucks. This really sucks. So I just really focused on organizing this space. This right here is my mini capsule wardrobe. I consult the weather, I consult my mood, and I consult my hormonal phase at the start of the week. Today is Sunday, this is a great example. I pull these pieces out of the closet and I do not make outfits, I create options. And so it is so much easier for me every week to come into my closet and see these options and make an outfit really quick. It's not about the aesthetic and the vibe, it is about the function and the flow. There is a myth that I would like to address in this video now. I have heard this from a couple of different content creators, whether they are business, homemaking people, but it's always been Christians, and it's just really not something that I believe. And I would like to just put it on the table for anyone who might be feeling this way. and just offer you the space to look at it differently. I have heard Christian content creators, particularly women, say when our home is in chaos, the Holy Spirit is not going to be here as strongly as he would be if it's clean, and that we are not inviting him in when we have a messy home. We are not creating space for the Holy Spirit. I deeply disagree. I deeply disagree. One, the temple of the Holy Spirit is our bodies, not our house. So the Holy Spirit is with you no matter what. And if you start to place a obstacle between you and the Holy Spirit like that, you're gonna perhaps get yourself into a place of confusion. This is not biblical truth, okay? If you have the Holy Spirit, you have the Holy Spirit. That is that. God says he will never forsake you, he will never leave you. And I think Paul writes about how there is nothing that can separate us from the love of God. So if that has somehow gotten into your ears and into your mind that your home can stop the Holy Spirit from being with you, please get rid of that. That's not true. Another reason why that's not true is that my home has been the most disgusting mess ever before. Not in this season of life, but when I was living single and I was living on my own and I was a new believer, a young believer, and my house was an absolute representation of the manic depression and anxiety that I was suffering. The Holy Spirit did not leave me. In the complete midst of the chaos, I was still able to sit down in it and cry out and talk to God and feel his presence and discern his truth and be given the grace and the love and the mercy to heal out of that. So he's not going to abandon you because you haven't set up the proper space for him to be in. This is not the Old Testament temple and tabernacle. This is the new covenant. This is different. This is what I believe is happening. And I could be wrong, but this is what I believe is happening. When we have chaos in our homes and everything that we have, everything in our home is an obstacle to life. Like, so for example, if you have chaos in your kitchen and you don't have things where they should be and everything keeps getting put away in different places and it takes you 5 extra minutes to just get through the drawers and find the baking sheet and do all the things, girl, or guy, your nervous system's jazzed. Your nervous system is triggered. Your nervous system is getting into protection mode. Your amygdala is triggering because our amygdala, the survival part of us that scans for threats, cannot tell the difference between an emotional threat and a physical threat. So if you are overstimulated and you are constantly facing obstacles and it's making you feel, your nervous system is jazzed. And I believe when our nervous systems are jazzed up and we're really stressed out like that and we are caught up in our sympathetic nervous system and not grounded in our parasympathetic nervous system, I think, in my opinion, it's a lot easier for us to be overcome by the deeds of the flesh and the works of the flesh. This is why when we're overstimulated, we can have outbursts of anger. The flesh has more say because the flesh is literally ringing alarms. Like the system, the amygdala, the nervous system, the frontal cortex is going dark. She's going down because everything has to go into the survival places. When we create function and flow and we create order and overcome that chaos structurally in our homes, we are able to walk more in the spirit because we're not constantly setting up a flesh slap. You know what I'm saying? So I think in that place, we are able to be more conscious and more aware and more present and awake of what the Holy Spirit is doing in our lives because we're not so distracted by flesh obstacles. We're not so distracted by everything being out of order. And okay, the verse that I hear people use to support this idea that the Holy Spirit's not going to be in your home if your home is chaos is that our God is a God of order, not of chaos. Our God is a God of faithfulness as well. He's not going to forsake you because you're not perfect, because everything is chaos. And something that has really been ringing in my soul is that we do not have to have the fruit of the Spirit as a prerequisite to have the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit brings that in. He is our teacher, he's our instructor, he's our comforter, he's our friend. He teaches us how to be that more Christ-like version as we walk toward being Christ-like. It's a process. Please dismiss this idea that if you're not doing enough, the Holy Spirit's gonna leave you. Not true. Not true. This is getting into you're saved by works. This is getting into you have to earn the salvation, you have to earn the grace, you have to earn the mercy, you have to earn the forgiveness. No, you don't. It is grace, it is given. And I think the more we get grounded on that truth, the more freedom we have, the more creativity we can use, the more fun we have hanging out with the Lord and being present in our lives, even in the midst of the chaos, the more healing we experience, and the more business we become about, because we're not caught up in those kind of foundational teachings of our faith, which is that, am I saved by works or am I saved by grace? You are saved by grace because you cannot earn what Christ did. He did what he did. He's given what he's given. This was a fantastic adventure for this video. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kaylee, and if you like this video, please subscribe, drop a comment down below, and if you'd like to see more content like this, I like this topic. It's a great topic. Also, I have launched a secondary channel, and I'm actually curious to see if it becomes my more primary channel. If you have found me just on YouTube or through Instagram or something, you may not know that I have a following on TikTok, and I don't know if TikTok is gonna be around soon because, you know, all the things going on, but I have a following there, and I am creating a YouTube channel for that community. And in that community, I talk about a lot of mindset and lifestyle things, but from the context of being an American living in Turkey. So I share a very different, broader perspective on my life and how I live it. And if that is something that is interesting to you, I encourage you to check out the links down below. Everything will be down there, and you can head over to that channel too. Thank you so much for your time, and if you have any questions, please ask them. And if you like this video, I've already said these things. Okay, also one more glance for the mug. Gorgeous. All right, I'll see you next time.